All right, welcome back to Purple Acorn live here at RecFest 2025 in Nashville. I'm joined by a very special guest, David Paffenholz. I think I named it. Jeremy, I got it right.
Perfect.
CEO of Juicebox. I think one of the biggest upstarts in the AI HR tech community right now. I just did a demo earlier this week. Platform was awesome. Dave, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So what brings you to RecFest?
For sure. So,
Yeah.
to be honest, it's a good time. It's a nice casual
Yeah.
setting to meet a bunch of our prospects, customers, partners, and more. We did the UK version, and now we're here in the US version.
Nice. And so for those that don't know, which I don't know who that is right now, but describe it, like, what is Juicebox?
For sure. So, Juicebox is an AI recruiting platform. What that means is we help our customers find the best talent. We do that by aggregating a bunch of different data sources and then having natural language search on top of that data.
Yeah.
And so you could think of it as easy as describing to a colleague, this is the candidate I'm looking for, help me find them, and Juicebox will go out and do it for you.
Cool.
From there, we provide contact data, outreach, so be that email sequencing, phone numbers, and more, and help you manage all of that as well, while syncing with your ATS.
It's definitely comprehensive, and having seen it, and I work with recruiters all day, every day. I've heard only good things, having seen the platform. I completely get it. Like, what are you seeing, like, with people that use Juicebox? Like, what are some of the best ways to leverage it that recruiters are doing right now?
Yeah, there's a kind of a surface level thing that I feel like oftentimes people think of first when they see Juicebox, which is time saving.
Yep.
And so like, okay, I'm saving a bunch of time. You know, I used to have to set all these filters manually. I used to have to click through thousands of profiles, and now I'm only doing a fraction of that because it's helping me surface them. And the speed is important, and I think that's always there. But then there's kind of the second level thing, which is trying to raise the bar in terms of how does one even search? What profiles is one looking for? What is the quality bar we're trying to set for a given role? Yeah. And I think that's where we can be most impactful by helping you come up with different search strategies, helping you find profiles in a different way, and frankly, people that might not have been outreached to at all for a given role. And so to sum that up, I think one, the speed part, but two, and to me even more interestingly, the quality of matches that we can help you find.
Absolutely. And then just the piece of, like, what I loved was you have the search, you have your inputs, right? You can kind of talk as you want, you have the Boolean, but that's going to find people every day if you keep honing it in.
Yep.
So for those that don't know, like, talk about that feature a little bit, because I know that's kind of like the wild piece of it, of like, if it can get that right, it's just a kind of a complete game changer.
For sure, yeah. So I think that's the Juicebox agents, which are our kind of fully autonomous version of sourcing. Really what that means, as you described, they go out and find new candidates for you every day. But most importantly, they actually learn from the candidates that you then accept or reach out to every day. Yeah. And so if you're approving a bunch of them, but we could notice that you consistently reject candidates who have too many years of experience or maybe don't have a specific skill set or experience, it'll auto-adjust the search and show you more of the right profile the next day around. And it does that all in a very transparent way. It'll actually show you, here's who we think you're looking for, here's the criteria, and here's how that's updated from one day to the next, because we noticed that you didn't move forward with a given candidate. And so that, like, self-improving, getting better every day part of it is where we see the biggest value.
Well, if someone hasn't demoed it by now, they're definitely going to after that breakdown, if you're any recruiter. But what inspired you to start Juicebox?
Yeah, so Juicebox is actually my first full-time job, in the sense that I started the business right after college together with my co-founder, and that was in 2022. We actually started off in a slightly different direction. So we were actually running a recruitment marketplace. I like to joke we were the world's worst recruiting agency, in that we were looking for talent, onboarding them, and we were just kind of trying to teach ourselves. Fortunately, a bunch of people in the industry were generous with their time and helped us get up to speed. But most importantly, we realized, like, how hard search is and how hard it is to find the right candidates. And this was before ChatGPT was out, so before the whole ChatGPT craze. And we thought, hey, we've seen this problem quite in depth. There's this new paradigm of technology in the form of large language models. Can we use that in combination with this problem to create a new type of solution? And so that's how we went about creating the first version of Juicebox, pure software to help you find the right match for your role. And then, took us a while to build that out, and then start commercializing 2024 and growing from there.
It's amazing. So well, you started this right before the LLM boom, right? Of like March 2023, right? End of Q1, early Q2. What did that do for you and your co-founder? Like, when that happened, how did that change your kind of world and your reality?
Yeah, so at the time, the latest model generation was GPT-3 before ChatGPT launched. And then ChatGPT launched in tandem with GPT 3.5, which is when LLM started getting smart enough that there was actually a real consumer use case, that you could use it to do your homework for students, that you could use it in your job and more. And back then it was like, you might remember it was like still a lot of hallucinations in there and you couldn't like quite trust it, but one could kind of see that there was some potential. And that's the same way we felt about the application of LLMs to talent search. And so the initial versions of our product were not very good. Like we were not giving you the right results. It was like maybe a 50-50 hit or miss rate. But we saw the potential and we thought, these models are going to continue to improve. We can continue to improve our search, and then bringing those two things together should make a really big impact.
I love that. Crazy. First full-time job is you starting your own company post-college. I'm wildly impressed because I was not nearly anywhere close to what you're doing at your age. What do you feel like you're the CEO, the visionary, what do you feel like is coming down the pipeline? Like, what should people be thinking about? What do you think is going to be coming, with AI as it gets more refined and we start to figure out how to live with it more? What do you kind of forecast down the road?
Yeah, I think LLMs are going to continue to get smarter. I think AI is going to become more ubiquitous. And then I think specifically in talent acquisition, a lot of the pain points that are being solved individually right now, or that still require manual workflow, that still require going into the ATS, really where a lot of the time is spent day to day in a recruiting function, I think a lot of those are going to be solved by self-improving, learning agentic systems that are able to do some of those workflows. And so, in our case, we focus most on the sourcing side. I think there will be similar things for other verticals and workflows. And then I think the really interesting trend that reveals is we get to be a lot more selective of where we deploy our time. What do we actually, where can we as humans add the most value? Is that in a candidate-facing role? Is that in a strategic role of deciding where do the agents get deployed? And so I think there's like this whole new paradigm that will open up that I'm quite excited about.
I'm with you. I think it is just like I've kind of always said it'll make maybe the not so great recruiters, sources maybe a little bit more obsolete, but good recruiters great recruiters almost unstoppable. And then it's like, how can one recruiter can almost act like they're 30 nowadays with the tools. This is even before just with automation and now with AI and with content marketing and podcasts like this and going to events, like you can be like, there's like super recruiters.
Yes.
Oh, that they're kind of like influencers, but they're still recruiting, and they can, if on the inside they could sell to, or if they're internal, they're building out whole teams. It's like, it's amazing what people could do. Like how does like one get there, right? Like, what are your recommendations? Because you get to work with all these recruiting teams. Like, what do you feel is like, how should people like kind of tackle being almost like anti-fragile and being like a recruiter that's here to stay for the long haul and doesn't have to worry about layoffs or being part of that, like being like that dynamic TA member or like that HR member?
For sure. So I think one thing that is like tangentially related, and then I'll directly answer the question, is like I think there's often this narrative of like total recruiting team size shrinking, or like AI automation is going to take away those recruiting roles. I actually don't think that's the case. I think recruiting is just going to become more competitive. There will be more recruiting. And so there'll also have to be more resources deployed into recruiting, be that humans or agents. And then to more directly answer your question as well of like, how does one stay competitive? How does one stay at the forefront of using those AI tools and really leverage them? I think I mentioned this in a talk as well. There's two things. One, doing the same things that a good recruiter does anyways. Because what we see is that the recruiters who are already performing the best are also able to use the agents the most to amplify themselves. And the agents, like, they learn from the recruiter's best practices. So if the recruiter is sending great outreach messaging, if the recruiter has unique search strategies and is trying new things, they will also use the agents to do the same thing. So it kind of amplifies that. And then the only other thing that I think gets added to it is communication, because in a way, an agent is like a junior employee that you should manage. And management really relies on that communication. And so more one can instruct the agent and give it feedback, the better results one will get from that as well.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting point of, you don't necessarily want to amplify the average or the low performers. You want to like look at kind of the agents, like who are your top performers, and create SOPs around that and everything else. Like that's where as an organization you can leverage them more. Like you kind of almost get the brains of your top performers. That's always one of the hardest things. Like the best sales rep, do they make the best sales manager? Right now you can kind of take the sales rep, their thoughts and all that, and like create SOPs and playbooks and all that, or recruiting manager or your top TA person, and create the playbook from that versus having that person teach. that directly, because sometimes maybe they're not the most qualified teacher.
Yes.
You know, like Michael Jordan didn't make the best coach.
Yep.
You know, but he's also Michael Jordan, right? And so I think that is like really interesting, because like that's kind of what I'm seeing people like pivot and learn like pretty quickly. It's just like, well, we can take the playbooks and like amplify the whole team.
Yep.
And I think people that are doing that, it's like there's going to be, I think, just mega companies that come out of nowhere, probably like a Juicebox, right? And that are doing all that. And it's going to be completely different in 5 to 10 years.
Yes.
Kind of like with the dot-com boom, dot-com boom. Like Google wasn't the first one, but they had the longest staying power and everything else. So it's super exciting. But I'll kind of pivot to RecFest, like an event.
Yeah.
What do you like most about being at an event like RecFest and being in person in a world where we could do everything virtually? Like, what is it about being in person and meeting up with people that's like worth it to you? Yeah.
Yeah, so the Juicebox is actually a fully in-person company. So our whole team is in San Francisco.
Okay.
We will probably open up an East Coast office too, but we're all in the same office. And I think we learn a ton from each other and learn a lot faster. I think there's a similar dynamic that gets created through these events where being together allows for much faster learnings, getting to know best practices, and then also just challenging one's own assumptions of what's out there. Like I've learned a ton about new vendors, best practices, different takes people have that I would have probably just not been exposed to or like consumed that content at all. And so I think in-person events, so fun. Great to also just build the relationships with people in person and learn a bunch of new things.
I completely agree. Well, David, appreciate you being here. Congrats on the success and just being an absolute rocket ship. So it's super cool. Great to meet you in person. Enjoy the rest of your RecFest, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. All right, well, that is it for this segment. Check out Purple Acorn. Follow us. Follow Juicebox. Take a demo if you haven't yet. What are you waiting for? Until next time, happy hunting.